Okay, look, I'm not bad at math. I just don't like it. There's a difference, okay? When it comes to quilting, a little bit of math can save a whole lot of fabric, frustration, and it can save those frantic late night sewing moments where you suddenly run out of fabric and you have to pay extra for faster shipping from the store. So today I'm going to walk you through the basics. No stress, no spreadsheets, just what you actually need. Hey friend, welcome back to Loose Threads and Stitches. I'm Kristen from ICStarsQuilting.com, and this is a place where quilters who love creativity but kind of side-eye the math part come to be seen. Okay, just so we're clear, I'm not a math person, if you didn't get that before. Like, I look at engineers the same way that I look at magicians or wizards, all right? Same level of mystery, same level of awe. I don't have a degree in math. I married a math person, so we balance each other out, right? Okay. Over time, though, I have found ways in my quilt journey to make the math part of quilting way less intimidating. So today I'm going to give you my go-to shortcuts and my sanity-saving formulas that will help you plan with confidence. You know, quilt math is really, it's just about making sure that things fit. That's all. Your blocks, your backing, your borders, your binding. This isn't calculus. It's just a few numbers that help you avoid those oh no, I'm out of fabric and I messed up moments at midnight when you're sewing, okay? Let's do an example here. Say your quilt top is 60 inches by 70 inches. Here is how I figure out how much backing I need for that quilt, okay? First of all, I'm gonna add 8 inches to both the length and the width of my quilt top, okay? That's gonna give you the 4 inches extra on all sides. If you're taking it to a long armor, generally, they ask for like 4 to 5 inches on either side just to make sure that there's enough for the machine to hold on to, okay? So if you're quilting this at home, let's go with that example. Your quilt back needs to be 68 inches by 78 inches now, okay? You're going to divide that by 36 to convert inches into yards. A yard, 36 inches. I know if you're not a math person, this is all just like blurring at you right now. Stay with me though. I promise it's not as complicated as it feels like sometimes, okay? So most quilting cotton is about 42 to 44 inches wide, right? The width of fabric. So I know that I'm going to need to piece 2 lengths of fabric together. So I am going to get about 4.5 yards of fabric. I'm going to split it in half and I'm going to sew it side by side. Boom. Done. That's how I get my backing fabric done. Now, there are other ways that you can get your backing done. I know some of you are very, very scrappy. You're very careful with your bindings. You're going to make an entirely different quilt on the back so you have a full 360 gorgeous piece of fabric there on your quilt, right? You can use orphan blocks on the back. You can piece different pieces of fabric together. But to get that idea of how much fabric you need, that's the formula that I use, okay? That's how I do every single quilt. Now, let's chat about binding math, aka the final quilt boss. All right, binding is where people usually kind of panic. And here is my lazy but very reliable formula that I have used for years. I want you to add all 4 sides of your quilt. So for our 60 inch by 70 inch quilt, we're going to add 60 plus 60 plus 70 plus 70. That's going to give us 260 inches. Now, that goes all the way around the quilt. You want to add about an extra 10 to 12 inches for joining and turning the corners on your binding, right? So that's going to give you 270 inches total. If you divide that by 40, which is your usable width of fabric, okay, the usable width of fabric, you're going to take out like the selvage edge on the side, or maybe where you're trying to join some patterns of some, cute little stripy binding or something, right? That's going to give you 6.75 numbers of width of fabric strips that you need, okay? So you're going to round that up to 7 strips. You're going to have a little bit left over there. Now, this is totally up to you. I personally like to do 3-inch binding. If you like to do 2.5-inch binding, or if you're one of those amazing people that like to do 2.25-inch binding, totally up to you. But for this example, let's say 2.5 inches wide. So you're going to multiply those 7 strips that you need times the 2.5-inch wide binding or the 3-inch binding, whatever. But for the 2.5-inch binding, you're going to get 17.5 inches of fabric. So again, we're going to round up a little bit. You're going to need half a yard of fabric for your binding to be safe. And that's all there is for binding. It's pretty simple. All right. Let's chat borders now. Quick and dirty estimate. All right. If you are adding borders, measure through the middle of your quilt top. Okay. Not the edge. That is where your quilt is the most accurate, because on the edge, you can kind of get a little bit of, let's see, fabric stretch, etc. Right? The middle of your quilt is going to be the most accurate. If you really, really want to get like super fussy accurate, you can do the top, the middle, the bottom on, or, the left, the middle, the right, and then take the average of those measurements. Okay. But the middle is where you're going to get the most accurate measurements. Let's say you want to add 6-inch border to all the way around your 60 by 70 inch quilt. You're going to need 2 pieces of fabric that are 6 inches by 60-inch strips, and you're going to need 2 pieces of fabric that are 60-inch by 82-inch, right? Because you're going to add the 12 inches to the total width of your quilt, right? So add up the total inches of the border strips, divide by 40 to figure out how many width of fabric strips you're going to need. Then you can calculate how many inches times the width of the strip to figure out the fabric amount. Listen to it again if it all went over your head. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Is this the perfect, most accurate way of figuring out this formula? Maybe not. But is it close enough for the quilters who'd rather be sewing than spreadsheeting and figuring out like mathematical formulas all day long? Yeah, it works, okay? So real talk is you can do this, all right? You don't have to be amazing at math to be a quilter. There is math involved. There is measuring involved. And unless you are an improv quilter, the more accurate your math is, the more accurate your piecing is going to be, etc., etc., etc. But I am absolutely proof that you don't have to be a math genius to plan your projects. You just need a few reliable numbers, a calculator, and the willingness to round up on a few no-fail formulas, right? Perfection is overrated. Preparedness, that's the golden ticket, okay? For quilters who love to quilt but don't love math, all right? So if math still makes your head spin, I have a guide that I have created. It has all of the necessary formulas and charts and things that a beginner quilter needs. Or even if you're not a beginner quilter, but you're not a confident quilter, this package has everything that I pulled together from my early journey in quilting and put into one nice PDF that you can print so that you have all of your quilting math cheat sheets there. Okay. I will leave a link down in the show notes down below in the description box as well. So, It walks you through the backing, the borders, the bindings. It's simple plug and play steps. All right. And if you want extra support on your quilting journey, you're welcome to join us inside the Stitch Sister Inner Circles. We help each other, okay, with all the nitty gritty parts of quilting, all the details, no judgment. I promise. Okay. We're all here just to be on this journey together. So whether you're calculating binding or you're just winging it with a tape measure and a prayer, I want you to know that you're doing great. These numbers aren't here to scare you. They're just tools to help you finish strong on your quilt journey. You got this, right? Do you hear me? You have this. And hey, if you mess up, that's what patchwork is for. Maybe you don't see it that way. I don't know. But the more that you do this, the more that it will become natural and normal and easy and not have to be something that you think about every time that you make a quilt. So thank you for being here with me today, friend. If this episode made quilt math feel even a tiny bit less scary for you, share it with someone who needs a little boost in their quilting journey, somebody who's just starting out or somebody who just needs to know that it's not as complicated as it seems to be. All right. Next week, I am going to be sharing the things that I wish someone had told me when I started quilting. I'm going to be sharing tips about going to quilt shows, reasons why you should support the local ones, the big giant ones, the festivals, the county fairs, all of that I'm going to be sharing in next week's episode. So until then, go do some quilt math or use a cheat sheet. Either way, please make sure that you are subscribed to this podcast. I would really appreciate it. I love you. I'm Kristen from icstarsquilting.com, and I'll see you next week. Bye.